My name is Angélica. I am the director of the Specialized Center for Stuttering here in Peru, in South America. And today I have the pleasure to be with Vivian Sisskin. She's the director of the Sisskin Stuttering Center. She's a clinical professor at the University of Maryland. And well, she is also known for their work in the avoidance reduction therapy for stuttering. But today we will talk about the social model applied in stuttering. So welcome, Vivian, and thank you for the.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So, well, today, as I was saying, we will talk about the social model. And I would like to start with a general question, and is what is the social model?
Well, I'm going to start off with a general disclaimer and say that I am not an expert on the social model. I am certainly not an expert in disability studies, but I find that the therapy that I have been doing for most of my career aligns with the social model. And so as we begin to talk about the social model in areas not only for stuttering, but in autism and other differences, and neurodiversity has been a topic that people are talking about lately, I am resonating more and more with the social model in my own work and talking with others who resonate with it and beginning to actually convert some of my therapy in terms of the terminology that I'm using to be more in line with the social model. So I'll explain what it is. Basically, the medical model is contrasted with the social model, and the medical model places the disability with the individual in their body or their mind. And in the medical model, the medical profession seeks to fix the person through therapy or rehabilitation or some way of improving the individual's ability to function. Those who can overcome the barriers and do not complain are celebrated. And that's the medical model. In contrast, in the social model, it places the difference or the disability in society, discrimination, lack of accommodations, those kinds of things. And it seeks to fix society rather through political action, actually. Although I'm not into the political action part of it, I'm more interested in the therapy part of it. And I'll explain a little bit on how I mesh those together. And so it's more about looking at how we can change society and stigma that comes out of society that can lead to many of the problems that people experience because of stuttering. So for me, why that's important is that I do see that stuttering is a difference, not a disability. And most of the struggle or the life impact that people have from stuttering is because of society, not because of the way they're talking. The struggle and the tension and the worry and the anxiety and the dread and the anticipation, all of those things actually are rooted in the idea that society looks down upon people who stutter, and there's lots of discrimination against people who stutter. So you want to hide it. And it's that hiding that leads to the problem of stuttering.
Exactly. And now I would like to ask you, why do you think this is important for us that we work with people who stutter?
I think it's important because the main, again, it's the main struggle in stuttering comes from trying to conform to a society that values fluent speaking over disfluent speaking. And because there is a stigma to being a person who stutters, the person grows up from a very, very early age trying to suppress and hide both their stuttering and the identity of being a person who stutters. And I think that the dual problems is trying to hide the stuttering and developing struggle behaviors in your speech, and then also hiding who you are, that identity piece, which leads to poor confidence as a speaker and the conflict in terms of showing or not showing that covert profile that many people try to assume, is because they don't want to show themselves as a person who stutters. As clinicians, if we try to make somebody fluent to satisfy society's notion of what is the right way to talk, we are giving people false hopes that they can be fluent, whatever that means, and it's met with failure. And the tools and techniques that we often give people to sound more fluent end up actually not working. There's greater frustration and often more struggle in the end.
Yes, exactly. This is very important because effective communication doesn't depend on the fluent techniques. Like there are a lot of things that can help people who stutter to communicate effectively. Speech techniques can help in some way, but as we always say, they're not perfect. It's
Yeah.
not like the techniques are going to make fluent or cure stuttering or things like that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely. I'm not a speech therapist. I always say this. I'm studying to be a speech therapist, but I am a psychologist. But well, different psychologists or a speech therapist, it's important to have this thing in mind and have this understanding of what the social model is in contrast to the medical model to see how we are working on therapy. What are our goals in therapy?
Yeah. And I think that going back just to the tools and techniques, even people who use tools and techniques well, they have to be conscious of them and they use them well. You're still losing a little bit of spontaneity and the joy of communication because you have to control your speech. And I honestly believe that the joy of communication, true communication, and that connection that you get in communication comes when you let go of that control.
There is this important definition of what is stuttering is for us who stutter that said and Scott did, and it is this the sense of loss of control while talking, which is very important too, because one of the things that we work in therapy is with this sense of loss of control. So this is another important thing to know.
Yeah. And it's confusing to a lot of people because on one hand, the moment of disfluency, the moment of stuttering is a feeling of loss of control. And that feeling of it's been depicted by the head in the sand idea that you're not aware of what's going on, and you're in a moment of panic to do anything to get the word out, use any kind of escape behavior or trick that you can to get the word out. Yet, even though that moment of stuttering is a moment of loss of control, and people who stutter are trying to gain control, from my perspective, if you can allow the loss of control and desensitize to it and embrace that loss of control, that's the only way that you won't be giving in to the need to escape.
Yes.
And so on one hand, we don't want to have that loss of control, yet it's the thing that we it's the thing that we want to tolerate for long-term change.
Yes, definitely. It's not like we need to gain control of this loss of control, but it's more in the way of we need to understand it. We need to can stay with it and to don't fight against it, because a struggle leads to more a struggle.
Yeah.
And so yeah, understanding what is going on, what is happening in that moment, and have this ability to stay with it and don't fight. It's
Yeah.
they need to know too.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about. It's about not fighting the moment of stuttering. Yeah.
Yes. There's another thing that I also want to mention, and it's something you said on the Oxford conference, and it's about this dual message, this double message, that sometimes a lot of speech therapists or psychologists or any professional that work in this field have say or do. I mean, that this those things can happen. For example, there are some things that I have done, and after your presentation, I was like, I need to say this. And for example, there are very interesting things. One of the things that I found very thought provoking was this message of it's okay to feel fear, so let's do some voluntary stuttering to don't feel fear.
Right.
When I listened to that, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, part of the problem is that, I think the problem is that we all grow up in this society, and we all have a certain amount of self-stigma that comes from buying into the notion that stuttering is not good. And so even as clinicians, I'm a clinician who does not stutter. And if you look at clinicians, they are happy when their clients are fluent. The clients are happy when they are fluent. And so even though clinicians understand that stuttering is okay, that you cannot get rid of all of stuttering, you will have some disfluency in your speech, even though they know all of that logically, they're still happy when their client is fluent, and they can't help praising them for their fluency. And so we are creating we're creating this idea, this conflict in our clients, that everybody says it's okay now. This is the new thing. Some people have never heard it, but now it's okay. But is it really okay? Because my therapist is very, very happy when I don't stutter, and my parents are happy when I don't stutter, and my boss is happy when I don't stutter. So these are some of the double messages. And I think it comes from us all being a part of the notion of the same society that continues to breed the idea that stuttering is not a good thing. The most important one that I notice in terms of double messages, the most obvious one is that everybody says, okay, it's okay to stutter. And you learn all about these famous people who stutter, and you have role models of people who stutter. And look, the president of the United States stutters, and this actor stutters, and this sports figure stutters, and it's all okay. And you should be proud of being part of it, the group. And then they turn around even within the same session, and they say, okay, now we'll work on our fluency targets. And so really within 1 second, they flip over and they're telling them it's okay, but at the same time, they're praising them for their fluency. That was so good. I didn't hear any stuttering at all. And so this is a problem, because as you noted when you heard the Oxford talk, you said, yeah, I'm guilty of some of that. It's not obvious to us. It's not obvious to us at all. How can our children that we work with understand it? And how can the parents that we work with understand it? You mentioned the other one, which is face your fears. It's okay to feel fear, but let's do some voluntary stuttering, and that'll bring down, you won't fear the fear. So we're telling people to embrace feelings, to embrace thoughts, to bring them to us. We're using all kinds of behavioral therapies like CBT and ACT and mindfulness to bring these feelings to us. But in the end, we don't want our clients to feel fear. And so that's another one. There are many. Yeah.
Yes. I really like that the one you said already, that you also mentioned it on the Oxford conference. This idea of showing the pictures of those who stutter, that are famous, but after that, how they can teach some techniques, and it's like, okay, they are learn that techniques to hide their stuttering, like this famous singer do. And like,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
could be great to show photos or pictures of those who stutter, but that they continue as stuttering, and there are good, I don't know, actors or lawyers or whatever.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say, yeah, we need to have role models who show more realistic depictions of stuttering out there, and not people who hide it well or used to stutter, or whatever it might be. But I truly believe that it doesn't matter. The form of the stuttering doesn't matter. And what we need to have people understand is that the physical form of stuttering has nothing to do with the stuttering problem. The life impact has all to do with stuttering. So whether we show somebody who has no overt stuttering behaviors, that person could have a covert profile, which they are frightened all day to talk. They think about stuttering from the moment they wake up to the moment that they go to sleep. That's all they think about is stuttering, but they show none. Then you can have somebody who shows a lot of struggle, but is pretty okay with it and participates, and communicates joyfully. So I'd like to make less place less importance on the actual physical form of stuttering, and look more about life impact.
This reminds me a lot how for a lot of years it was very common to see, like, I don't know, this person has a severe stuttering, but it's like severe for whom? For the clinician that is listening to it, or for the person that is having that struggle?
Yeah.
So yeah, that reminded me like that. And how now, well, things are changing. Now how, it's important to put the focus on the person who stutters and to see how this person feel it. Because as you were saying, there could be some people that you can hear them as like having these fluences or as stuttering, but on the inside, they could be struggling a lot. They could be feeling sad and a lot of similar emotions. And on the contrary, happens too. So yeah, that
Yeah. It reminds me of clients who come to me, and at the end of the evaluation, they say, so tell me, am I mild, moderate, severe? I'm supposed to tell you? No, you tell me. So they're coming to find out if they're mild or severe. I think that's ironic, because I always say back to, I don't know. How much is it affecting you? I don't know what it is. Severity measures are things that I have trouble with from all perspectives. Um, even even life impact surveys don't really demonstrate the true severity of stuttering and how much it's impacting your life. So you have to consider a wide range of things.
Yes, there are a lot of things changing. Like, for example, I remember too how it used to be very common to put some percentages of the influence and to say, okay, this person have 2 point something of this influence, but it's like just in that moment, and that was very frustrating because a lot of clients have this idea of, okay, I have a percentage of this, so I need to diminish this. But it's like, this is just a picture of the moment and can be not that useful now.
Yeah, yeah. I like the way that you're bringing up the notion of frequency of stuttering, a frequency of disfluency of being not very relevant because it changes so much. The variability of stuttering is what stuttering is. But I think it is worthwhile looking at how somebody stutters. In other words, look at the form of the stuttering rather than the frequency of the stuttering. And I like to do a demonstration where I show a lot of disfluency. Right now, I'm showing a lot of disfluency, but I'm still talking to you and having a lot of repetition and prolongations in my speech. And if you would actually count up all of my disfluencies right now, I would have a severe disorder of stuttering based on my frequency. But if I had complete fluency and didn't show any stuttering at all, but then I had just one moment of stuttering, which was struggled. That's only one. And yet it wouldn't show up as a disorder of stuttering in our counts if you're looking at frequency. So the quality of the disfluency, the way one stutters, for me, is very, very important. And even though within the social model, we were talking about the social model, where does therapy fit in the social model? I do believe that acceptance and change are compatible. So I'm all in favor of changing the way somebody stutters if they're into that, if they're interested. I don't think that the way they learn to stutter necessarily should be the way that they need to stutter. That is very changeable. Change the things you can change and don't change the things you can't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And communicating those things to our clients too. And I mean, be realistic, not be cruel, but be realistic on the things we can do and the things we can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was saying, with a lot of empathy, I have heard a lot of stories of children, adolescents, adults crying after a session with the speech therapist or psychologist, whatever. And then, like, I mean, we need to be honest, but also a lot of empathy because they are having a lot of struggles too. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think that for me, the therapy has to be very client directed, working on things that the client wants to work on, and deciding the things that that client wants to change. And I think it's easy to do that if you ask the right questions. The problem is that clinicians are not asking the right questions. They can say, yeah, do you want to be fluent? Do you want to do fluency shaping, or do you want to modify the way you stutter? Well, there's more than two choices in the world. I prefer to ask the questions on what would they like to be doing if they had no life impact from stuttering? What would be different in their life, and work toward those goals rather than focusing on fluency, modification, those kinds of things.
Exactly.
Get to the real issues on how would life be different for you if you didn't stutter, perhaps, and let's work on some of those things so we can get you doing the things you want to do in life and feeling the way you want to feel in life as a communicator. That confidence is very important.
Exactly. There are a lot of things to work there with the person, the psychological impact, the environment, a lot of things that we as clinicians need to work with. But yeah, definitely at the end, we want them to be happy to achieve their goals no matter how many disfluencies they have.
Mm-hmm.
And communicate freely.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, time flies. I feel like 5 minutes.
Has it really, have we really been talking that long? It's hard to believe. Yeah.
Yeah, this was great. I'm very happy. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It was a pleasure talking with you.
And I also need to say thank you to all of you that watched this video. I hope you enjoy it. And well, there are a lot of videos already with different speech therapists from different countries. So I hope you enjoy it all. Thank you so much. And one more time, thank you, Vivian.
Thank you.